Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We are coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Clean Ghana campaign bounces back as checks today reveal several shops in the city pay no regard to COVID-19 safety protocols. We'll bring you the consequences of such behavior apart from unnecessarily exposing people to risk. The world at a standstill despite countries gradually easing restrictions on movements. This afternoon we'll look at the impact of COVID-19 on immigration as residents in the border town of Aflao cry over border closures. Do you live in a border town? Better still, how has a border closure affected you as far as immigration is concerned? Let's have a conversation. And on the global outlook, some doctors in Germany go naked on a protest they call bare concerns. They are protesting lack of personal protective equipment. But why go naked? And how are the German authorities dealing with the situation? We're live in Germany this afternoon as we go across the world. Those are top stories this hour. My name is Gifty Amdopia. This is The Pulse. Please join us on DSTV 421 Go TV 144. You can also join us on YouTube where we're streaming live. We would love to hear from you, so send us your comments and your thoughts on our WhatsApp platform 0540109009. You're welcome. Let me take you through the details of those stories now. 5 shops at the Kaneshi market have been locked up by environmental health officers of the AMA for failing to observe any of the measures to help fight the spread of coronavirus. This action comes after officials say they had distributed letters to almost every shop in the capital in February, requiring them to comply with all the measures. Nancy Emefajradosi was with the Joy Clean Ghana campaign team and reports despite the large disregard for these protocols, there were some that were actually commended. She has details.
We are back again, and this time in a different dimension. We've seen that we have a case at hand. And what is this case? We are all fighting the pandemic. The pandemic is not, let me say, a curative disease. It's more or less a preventive disease. And as environmental health officers, it is our mandate to educate the public. And this education has since been going on. We've sent them a lot of mandatory letters asking them to provide the hand hygiene protocols kits, asking them to use the masks. So today we are coming to see how people are complying. We are going to move from shop to shop. When we get to a shop and they do not have any of the kits that we ask them to provide, we'll close the shop and then prosecute the shop owner. Reason being that they are helping in the promotion of what? The spread of the disease. So that is what we are doing in Kaneshi here today. Any shop at all, be it saloon, barbering shop, provision shop, eatery, and all that.
Friends. Huh? Friends.
You are friends?
Yeah.
Have you heard of coronavirus?
Yeah,
You've heard of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you know about it and what did they tell you to do?
One thing, we have to wash our hands and wear nose masks. Yeah, that's right.
And then this is a sales point. You sell here, customers come, your clients come to take whatever you sell here. You have been informed that at the entrance of your business frontage, you have to provide a Veronica bucket here. You talk of washing hands. So where will they wash their hands? How we have come, you should have stopped all of us at the point and direct us to wash our hands, sanitize ourselves before we have entry. We want to see where your Veronica bucket is. Where is it?
I ran and come my boss. So when it's come back, bring the Veronica bucket.
Right now that you inform your boss. So for a period that we've been educating this thing, it's now that you have informed your boss.
Because of the lockdown, we are not working again.
The lockdown was not affecting your business. So you were operating, you were not locked down?
We locked down. Okay, we are not working.
We don't have a problem with that, but our policy is that you should have provided the Veronica bucket, because everybody is made known that Veronica bucket must be provided at the entrance of your business. So for you not having the Veronica bucket at this point, at this time, no sanitizer, you have to come out. You have sanitizer, so where is the Veronica bucket?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, where is the sanitizer that you have? It's in your bag. So if customers come, they have to come to your bag to take it. Master, get the place ready. Get the place ready. Put off the electrical joggers all off and come out. We'll close the place. When you get Veronica bucket and put adequate sanitizer and protocol measures in place, will allow you to operate. So get the place closed down and come out.
So we are entreating all those who have come here to take water to go and sell. Please go out. None of you is wearing a nose mask. Have you? Where is it? You know, the issue is having the nose mask. Having the nose mask is different from wearing the nose mask. We give you buy the nose mask for a purpose. The purpose is to put it on. That will help you protect yourself and protect your friend. But you buy the thing and you put it in your pocket. It means, you see, this is not your room. This is the business premises. You are here. He is here. A lot of people are here. You are wearing it to protect yourself and to protect your colleagues. You understand? Whose child is this?
I don't know.
So please, take everything out. We are locking up this shop, and then we are giving them a notice, and then it will be followed up with a summons because they have refused to comply with the provision of the hand washing protocols. And because of that, we are going to prosecute them. We have the bylaw, even in the AMA bylaw, and then at the same time, using the Public Health Act 2012, Section 168 and Section 169 and Section 170, subsection 1, give us the mandate to lock down the place and prosecute them. So that is what we are going to do as we are standing here. So he's writing a notice for them, and it will follow up with a summons so that we take it from there. Thank you.
Hey, come and call your child's mother to come for it.
How are you? Yo, we are from AMA. Some time ago, we asked everybody when the onset of COVID-19 arrived. We educated you to provide Veronica buckets. Every shop should have a Veronica bucket and alcohol-based hand sanitizer for your customers. Why is yours?
Okay, I'm not here. It's my mother's shop. Yes, I'm only helping her out.
But you open it, and then you do not have it. So the law says that when we come around and then you refuse to provide these protocols, kits, we should take action against you. So as it stands now, we are going to lock your shop. We will give you a notice for your mother to provide the hand washing kits. That is the Veronica bucket with soap and water. Then alcohol-based hand sanitizer. When she provides those things, we are going to open the shop for her. But if she refuses to do it, we will prosecute her. So as it stands, please, where is your marks?
Oh no, I was thinking, I just finished.
So you can't even find it.
No, they're not.
You can't even find your marks. You were just eating, so where is it? Master, carry the things inside for us to lock the place. Send the things inside. We are locking the shop. Master, you come out. Master, send the things inside. We are locking the shop.
From where do you come and tell us that you are the
Nana, stop packing.
Pack the things inside the rest. Please, what's your mother's name? What? Cynthia what? Cynthia Odro. Okay. Please, carry the things inside. The thing has even contaminated. Carry the things inside. We are locking the shop. So put it inside. Lucky store. So you can see how some people are so stubborn. Even asking him to protect himself, he's seeing it as we are disturbing him. And then no smack no one, even on the bucket way. Only Veronica bucket. Ah, yes, bucket is see her. And it's you, and it's young to
If you misbehave, I'll put you inside cells now.
Oh, Pacha for one. Veronica bucket no one. It is a Siana for me. One hour. Veronica bucket one. Once it's on your man, coincide, you're lucky and also. Once it's on your man, coincide, once you're lucky. He said he's the one who is here. He should come. But Susan Yaman go inside.
Madam, who are Saudi?
Once Susan Yaman go inside.
Position Yaman, position. Two million are only so position.
Mammy, who dear my acquaint? What happens if they get it immediately? The issue is, if we didn't come, it means she's not going to provide it. So we'll definitely take her on because she has already faulted. The issue came out on the 16th of March for all of them to provide the Veronica bucket. We served them with notices, all of them, all the shops here, not only Kaneshie, the whole of Accra Metropolitan Assembly. We distributed no less than 6,000 copies of mandatory notice for them to provide before the lockdown, and they have refused. You understand? So we are going to take them on. Whether she provides it now or not, we'll take it. At the time of inspection, she wasn't having it. If we didn't come, she will not provide it. So we are going to take them on.
What are you doing to protect yourself and others from COVID-19? Well, let me take you to Kumasi. The Sokoyi Mampo Municipal Assembly in Ashanti region says it will need no state security to enforce mandatory wearing of face masks in its jurisdiction. Chief Executive Ali Duseidu explains task force and emergency teams deployed by the assembly are already carrying out the president's directive. He says traders in 6 market centers in the area as well as other residents are in total compliance. My colleague Ohim Interior has this report.
Traders here at the Sokoyi Mampo market have complied with the directive. Each of them is in nose mask. Market Queen Akosia Poma is happy at the response from the traders. She is, however, unhappy patrons at the market are not complying with the directive.
Menkole wojom henyina makami yenyante asia obi ehyebi obi su hono obetade amaka chense wo bedwom ayesrew faade ne hyewa no asokoma mpodwom ha titiriw de ye wa hane se empanimfo se yeso sika ne mu aye hohoro yensa mpaso yedi so yeso sika ne mu ane ye hohoro yensa ye ton ade nso ade no ye de ahyehye ya no na ye kasa nti yenyina ya ye kuru ye tie empanimfo na asemu a ye gi sika no near Horiensa. The year how pa Cassia, Edna Nipana, ye free fear, abatadiano. Ye near free fear ba abatadiano, ye ba yen shebi.
Chief Executive for Sokoyi Mampo, Alhaji Ali Duseidu, is happy about the trend, especially at public places. He says such level of compliance makes police military deployment redundant.
When the president speaks, it gets to the ears of all the citizens. The euphoria, the adherence, is very high, and we are so much happy with it. And apart from the public places, that is the markets, the lorry terminals, the health centers and all the others, even those at home, they are having it on. Because we have emergency committee to see to it that all of these things are done. We also have the Municipal Security Council also in place. We also put together a task force moving from one end to the one place to the other, just to make sure that the enforcement is also adhered to and the people are complying with the way of manner. So currently, as I'm speaking with you, we have no problem with that. The level of compliance has also left us with the option of just using the task force, municipal task force, to look at these things, because you enforce it when there is resistance. But here's the case: if you come voluntarily, they are all having their nose mask on. So we didn't see the need to come with police or military enforcement before that is done. Once we've already done it, we are not there yet. If there were resistance, then you will be left with no option than to come with such.
The situation, however, is different at the Juso market, which is one of the most patronized in Ashanti region. Leadership of the Market Association is enforcing no mask, no entry directive at the facility. Only traders and other members of the public in nose mask are admitted. But it comes with a challenge: lack of public support. Kofi Asante is the secretary to the Juso Market Association.
If you don't have it, you can't enter a Juso market. Immediately we see that fellow, we walk him out, we question him. Why is it? If he's not having it, then he cannot enter the market. He needs to go back and have it before he can enter. It's not easy because they see you as part of them. So we may need the law enforcement also to support us to enforce this activity in our markets.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Ohimenteria reporting.
We remain in the Ashanti region because the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has introduced new stickers to regulate operation of commercial vehicles in the city's central business district. The move is to decongest the city center by restricting entry to registered vehicles under recognized transport unions as part of measures to contain the coronavirus pandemic. Kumasi Mayor Osei Entry told union leaders at the outdooring of the stickers those who flout rules under the new regime will be prosecuted. Erastus Asari Donko has more.
Kumasi's congested trading hubs continue to attract transport operators who cause massive congestion, largely due to acts of indiscipline. The development is creating difficulty in human and vehicular movement in observance of safety protocols in the midst of COVID-19. The KMA wants to limit the number of trotro and taxis entering and loading at designated points. The Assembly, in collaboration with transport unions, has designed special stickers to identify commercial vehicles permitted to operate in the city center at any given time. Drivers will have to display the stickers designating them to ply specific routes. City Mayor Osei Entry says the security agencies will from next week start enforcing the guidelines.
It has really come out that there are a group of people that do not want to work with law, and as such, anywhere that they found themselves, they want to do business with. And the monitoring team is to ensure that the worst offenders, that is those who go contrary to the traffic regulations, they will deal with them. Because they, by law, they have the right to be able to sanction them. So in moving around, even though the GPRT and their reps are going to be there, that is members of the 24 unions are going to have their reps there. The KMA are also going to have our reps there. But as for the legal action that will be taken against the offenders, all the offenders will be referred to the police for police to prosecute them.
Union leaders have welcomed the move by city authorities to ensure sanity in the city center. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaridonko, Kumasi.
We'll take a quick break. When I return, we'll take a look at the world. But also, the world is at a standstill, despite countries which are gradually easing restrictions on movement. This afternoon, like I said earlier, we'll be looking at the impact of COVID-19 on immigration as residents in the border town of Aflao cry over border closures. And I'm asking, do you live in any border town? Better still, how has the border closures affected you as far as immigration is concerned? Let's have a conversation when we return from this break. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. In a series of stories looking at how the coronavirus outbreak has impacted people in Ghana and around the world, we focus on immigration. That those who are locked up in countries they were only visiting when the outbreak occurred. Some even have their visas expired and some have run out of money. What options are available to these people? Today, immigration consultant Wanda Kuto is here to help us with all those questions. You can send in your questions and also join us via Zoom or WebEx. Right now, though, let's take you to Ghana's border town, border town with Togo. Traders at Aflao say the economy is almost dead, making it difficult for them. Volta regional correspondent Fred Kwame Ansari reports.
Aflao is one of the busiest border communities in Ghana with a vibrant local economy, which flows into the entire country's economy. For many years, this border post has been an entry and exit point for several thousands of people, along with which comes revenue generation for both the state and individuals who live close and far from here. It has been over a month since Ghana's borders were shut to contain the spread of the coronavirus, and the once busy Aflao border is now nothing short of a ghost town like several cities across the world. The local economy here is crippled. 45-year-old Yawa Dumechi sells fresh fish at the Bit9 pedestrian border post. She relies on the little income she makes from this business daily to feed, clothe, and educate her children.
Let me eat boa, Omodugo. Let me eat boa, Manana Kogo, Yamadowade, and Nahala Chakwajinemi, Manaka Mali. We have here Garmona of Amajana Garmona from Gaponi Juna, Aquaya Poma. Number one and Namade, and you know, Yaga country. Yambo, pick me that I got two, as you do. Pick me that I got to Jiru and Aquayano, Winnie.
The most common means of commercial transport here in Aflao is a motorbike. These had served as an avenue of employment for hundreds of young people in and around Aflao, but the youth fear they may be out of business in no time if the coronavirus pandemic persists.
Que passenger agato na gavana okora kuyo na ono wedo de na cha timoteo anya kom nya na ko mi ya nya so wa atron nya shi wa ifonji na tro fulo wo shi wa da fu wa o mi ya le ko na gamoli wa re ko bo ya fi wo nya fia o bo dolele ko mi ma ku dolele ku re ndudu ku mi ja ba ku e ka mi ji wa mo ne ye ji.
Traders at the Aflao market are not spared the economic effects of COVID-19. A few weeks back, this market center would be buzzing with activities. In fact, the traders fear the closure of the border might lead to food shortage. Awoku Energy trades in the Aflao market.
boy ma short na tomato sabala kle blite tu ya adeniaji.
The dwindling economic activities, which is threatening livelihoods of residents here, has moved traditional authorities to take some spiritual steps which they believe will wipe out coronavirus. They poured libation at the Bit 9, Bogli, and Aflao main border posts and offered what they called sacrifices at the feet of the Aflao community gods. For now, uncertainty is building up as state authorities warn people not to fear but stay vigilant. But until certainty that allows for the lifting of the restrictions on movement dawns, majority of residents here in Aflao would continue to struggle for survival. They are hoping the government will extend the food distribution to the poor and vulnerable to their communities also. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Aflao.
Fred Kwame Asari sends that report, and once I'm wearing the nose mask, you know we're going to have a conversation. So let's now start our conversation on COVID-19 and immigration. Join us via Zoom, share your experiences with us as well. You can drop us a text message on my WhatsApp platform, and I will share it with the rest of the world. On Zoom with me is Kojo Prim. He's a Ghanaian student, a Ghanaian stranded in South Africa. Hello, Kojo. I also have Carl Williams, who is a Liberian stranded here in Ghana, who will be joining us also with his story on phone. Wanda Kuto is an immigration consultant who has joined me here in the studio. Mr. Kuto, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to take some of your messages whilst I wait to get connected to one of the persons joining us via Zoom so we can have this conversation. This one says, I'm Sebastian Kujo Ziga from Aflao. I want to ask, is it advisable for vehicles to ride into Ghana and at the same time Togo? Because most of us do transport food in vehicles from Togo to Ghana. Maybe we can get some questions, some answers there as well for you. Good afternoon, JoyNews. Thank you for the daily information. Closing of the border is not easy for the people of Aflao because most of us depend on the border. But in fact, our health is more important. May the Lord help us out. From Willie, who is testing us from Jasikine. I also have this one that says, I can really see. All right, I'm not sure if this message is meant for me, but Philip, you're testing me from, well, it says when I send messages you don't read, I reading them. You're talking about CSM. I'm asking those of you who live in border towns to send us your message. Mr. Kuto, let me start with you whilst we wait for those who need to join us via Zoom to do so. What are your thoughts generally about the impacts of COVID-19 on immigration?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you are aware, most borders have closed across the world. And I think that post-COVID-19, borders will be strengthened. You will recall that after 9/11 in the US, for example, the INS, the Immigration Naturalization Service, was dissolved in 2003 as a result of the 9/11 incident. As we speak now, the 9/11 incident gave birth to the DHL, the Department of Homeland Security. That is what operates in the US now under the tripartite system, where we have the US Customs Border Protection, the US Citizenship and Immigration Service, and then the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement that are in charge in enforcement of immigration-related issues. So you realize that even after 9/11, there was a drastic change in immigration issues in the state. Right. As we speak now, biometric has been introduced at the various airports across the US. So clearly, after COVID-19, we are going to see some changes across board. I'm looking at the DS-160 form. There are some security questions that have been asked. Let me make this clarification. We have immigrant applicants who fill different form, and then the non-immigrant applicants, they use the DS-160. There are some security questions, whether or not you are part of a terrorist group and stuff. There's a likelihood that there'll be health questions. Do you have any history of COVID-19?
Yeah.
Do you have any medical reports to that effect? So after COVID-19, there'll be serious issues. As we speak now in Africa, for example, in Ghana, our refusal rate to the US now is 7.
As in, we're refusing people who are applying to enter?
Yeah, so out of 10 people, every 10 people who apply to enter the US, 7 is refused in Ghana. That's the refusal rate now. And after COVID-19, it may be worse. It may be worse.
Let me listen to Carl Williams. He is a Liberian who's stranded in Ghana. Let's hear his story and see what advice there is for him. Hello, Carl.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Carl. Thank you for your time. Carl, share your story with us. How come you're stranded here in Ghana?
Okay, good afternoon to the viewers, to the officer in the studio. I got here February 24th, and just a day before being back to Liberia, the border was closed. So I couldn't go. And since then, I've been here, living off the benevolence of some of Ghanaian friends. I have no source of income. I'm not working. I'm just home. No, my family is here, and my wife just gave birth, so I came to visit. And after that, just returned home. Returned to Nigeria. So since then, it's been difficult. I mean, without any source of income, there is nothing you can do. You have to take care of a lactating mother, take care of kids and stuff. No source of income. And worst of all, the borders too are closed in Liberia. So even if tomorrow His Excellency the President announces the opening of Ghana's border, first border is closed. So going back will be basically difficult. And over there, the lockdown is more like a curfew type of lockdown. You are not permitted to be out after 3 p.m. until 6 a.m. in the morning. So their movements are heavily restricted.
Okay. So you were supposed to return to Liberia when?
That was the Tuesday after the
do you have the date
of the border.
Do you have the date?
That was the first announcement the president made. I think was March, earlier part of March.
This will be about 18th of March.
Yes, thereabout.
Okay, so was there a possibility for you to leave earlier than that?
Come again?
Was there a possibility for you to leave earlier than that?
To leave Ghana?
To leave, yes, to leave Ghana earlier than that date.
No. It's when the closure was announced. I tried to see how best I could leave early because it was announced on a Saturday. So I tried to see if I could leave on a Sunday. But unfortunately, too, it was not going to be possible because by the time I would have reached there, the borders was going to be closed. Every coast has closed their borders. I came by road, and I'm going by road. So I would have gotten stranded in between.
Okay, let me see if there's any advice from our immigration experts here for you. This is Carl's story. What are the options available to him?
Basically, Carl will just have to comply with the Ghanaian laws. As it stands now, you may be aware that the president, through an executive instrument, is implementing some restrictions across the country, and not only Ghana, even South Africa, even Liberia itself. So he just have to confine to the Ghanaian law. We are not in normal times, so he must just remain in Ghana until the borders are finally opened.
Carl, let me ask you this. There are opportunities for people who, so for the UK or the US, for example, when you go on their social media handles, they give you pointers as to what to do if you are a national of so-and-so country that is stranded here. There are avenues for you to be evacuated, like some sort of government evacuation. Is that not available to Liberians?
No. They're not, because I'm not even the only person. I have a friend here who is also stranded. I mean, had hotel bills upon his head, and only God knows how he's surviving. And we try to keep that out. The embassy is not functioning right now, so there is no means out.
How long do you think you can? How long do you think you can be in Ghana? Because we really don't know when.
Well, it's just by the grace of God, my dear. It's just by the grace of God. I mean, just praying this whole pandemic to be over, then at least we can start deciding how to move. Because, like I said, but for the benevolence of some Ghanaian friends who have been helping my family and me, I mean, I would have practically starved, you know. But I tell God thank you for them, and you know they've been good. Although you cannot go and stress them too, because they have their own problems they are taking care of. So right. I can't burden them with yours.
Yes, that's true. So, by the way, like immigration expert here is saying, you will have to stay in the country for a while until it's finally lifted.
Yes, and he is even lucky. In the U.S., all the asylum seekers have been sent back to Mexico, so it's not even a good time. Some countries are not even accepting foreigners. So he's even lucky that the security forces are not chasing foreigners.
Asking people to leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's even lucky.
Carl, I say a very big thanks to you for sharing your story with me this afternoon, and continue to comfort and be the strength for your wife in these times. I mean, it's a good time to bond as well. So you get to spend some time with your newly born child and, you know, have some family time together, Carl. All right, so Carl Williams is a Liberian stranded in Ghana. I'm coming back to you, Mr. Kuto. So you talk about the expectation that things would change, just like things changed after 9/11. Yeah. What exactly do you foresee could happen as far as the changes expected at the immigration points are concerned?
Yes, some categories of visas may be cancelled entirely, especially for those moving from Africa to the U.S. As you are aware, President Trump has tweeted that he's going to sign an executive instrument blocking people from migrating to the U.S. A lot of people appears not to understand what the president meant. The president said that with limitations. The president was referring to new green card holders. When we talk about green card, it's just the permanent resident seekers or holders, except that the color of the card is green, which is why it's called the green card. Okay, so there will be restrictions after COVID-19. And I'm looking at health base, so people who have had history, like not necessarily they having COVID-19, but their family members. I mean, there will be that kind of restrictions. And like I said, some of the restrictions may be seen as discriminatory. Like after post 9/11, 25 Muslim countries they have set up biometrics trackers on them. As and when you enter the US, automatically your biometrics are collected and you are being tracked. 25 Muslim countries. So that policy is discriminatory, but that is what we live in. So after COVID-19, I suspect countries that have high cases for COVID-19 may be affected. In Ghana, as it stands now, our cases is over 1,500, if I'm right.
Yes, we're I think about 1,671 the last time we got the updates from the health service.
Yes, and this is worrying because if Ghana now in Africa is one of the leading countries as far as COVID-19 is concerned, so if we are not careful, we may be added to the list of countries that restriction may be tougher on Ghana as far as moving not only to the US, UK, and then the Schengen community, that is Europe.
But looking at the people who live, I mean, those who live other African countries, say Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, if there are pressing reasons why you need to go, are there any options for you as far as the law can give for you to go around, or you just, once there is this executive instrument, you just have to stick to it?
What reason could that be? Because COVID-19 is a contact-based disease. We are fighting the virus. We are fighting COVID-19, and it's a contact-based disease. So what reason could it be for you to move about?
Okay.
You recall that the president gave a mandatory 2 weeks quarantine for all those who had arrived in the country.
Yes.
Some actually tested negative, but after the second testing, they ended up testing positive. So you cannot be assured that these foreigners in Ghana are negative as far as COVID-19 is concerned.
Okay.
And the cost involved in fighting this virus is huge. So we cannot look at their comfort. I mean, we are not in normal times. They need to go through the pain. Like I said, foreigners in Ghana are even lucky. As we speak, in the US, all asylum seekers have been pushed away to Mexico. Right. So I think that we need to be careful in trying to put an humanitarian face in implementing the restrictions.
I'm hoping to get some of you join us via Zoom so we can take your questions and we have the answers for you. I'm going to take a very quick break. I'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with me. I do have here an immigration expert. So we wrap up our conversation on immigration, the impact of COVID-19 on immigration. And Mr. Kusa, let me just ask you, you mentioned something right now about unemployment, the relationship between movement of people across borders and unemployment. Do give us a short brief on that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, after the Great Depression of 1913 in the States, COVID-19 has proven to be the greatest challenge in the world. As it stands now, about 16.3 million people have applied for unemployment benefit in the US, meaning they want money from government because they do not have jobs. As a result of this, the US government has put in place measures to prevent people from coming to the US to compete with people there for the little jobs available. The US now is technically shut down. Now, having said this, work visas, categories of work visas, the H1 visas and co, will be limited after COVID-19. As you may be aware, we have different categories of visas in the US. The A1, A2 for government officials, F1, J1 for students. We have the B1, B2 for visitors, those who are going to tour, and then those going for conferences. But for work visas, the H1, B1, H1, B2 visa categories will be limited after COVID-19.
Okay. Why do you think so?
I'm saying that COVID-19 has led to unemployment shortages in the US, such that the US citizens, about 16.2 million, as it stands now, have applied for unemployment benefits. They are requesting for money for government because they do not have jobs. Now, if the US government allows people to fly from Ghana, Kenya, South Africa to the US, they are going to compete with those people there who already do not have jobs. It is therefore not surprising that the US as it stands now are pushing people away to Mexico. All asylum seekers are being moved away, even without recourse to due process. That is how worse this is. And I'm saying that after the Great Depression of 1930, this is the biggest world problem that we are facing now. So the effect of COVID-19 on immigration is dire. And after post-COVID-19, it will be worse, such that categories of visas, such as the work visas, will be restricted.
Okay, and if you have a visa at the moment, those whose visas have expired, my final question, those whose visas have expired who have traveled outside their countries and they are stuck, like Kojon Prem, who was supposed to join us from South Africa, who unfortunately were unable to reach, what options are available to people like that, whose visas have expired?
For Kojo, he's lucky. He's in South Africa. Now, this is the dynamics in South Africa now. They've given a directive that if your visa expires from 15 February 2020 to July ending, then you would be allowed to reapply.
Okay.
Now, if you decide to move out of South Africa after the lockdown, as you may be aware, the lockdown has been extended to April 30th. Now, if you move out of South Africa after the lockdown with an expired visa, you will not be declared as undesirable.
Okay.
For that matter, when you are applying again, you will not need a Form 20. If in South Africa, when we talk about Form 20, we are talking about letter of good cause.
Okay.
So in the event that you travel out of South Africa with an expired visa, you will not need a Form 20 because of the circumstance. Ordinarily, if you leave South Africa with an expired visa, you find it difficult to re-enter South Africa. So for Kojo, I don't think he has an issue much.
He's fine.
Yes, and as it stands now, you cannot. The foreign minister has made it clear.
Okay.
Naledi has made it clear that you cannot apply for renewal during the lockdown. All institutions, foreign-related institutions in South Africa are shut down now. So, but after the lockdown, but there's a caveat. It must be between the 15th of February. So if your visa have expired last year December, you want to take advantage of this, you need to have a second look at it.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing from you, they're going to be, you expect, you as an immigration lawyer, you expect that things will change, immigration laws will change post-COVID-19, just like immigration laws changed post 9/11. You also expect that this will have a severe toll, severe toll on jobs because countries do not want people to come and compete with the very little jobs available. Exactly. So they're going to make sure that people don't get the chance to travel in there. And if you have a visa that has expired within the time frame of COVID-19, you're safe because everybody understands the circumstances, but you cannot take advantage. In fact, you can't even move anyway.
That is for some countries, and I mentioned because it's mentioned Kojo, I refer to South Africa. The dynamics in the US is different because in the US, for example, if you have a valid visa for 5 years, when you arrive in the US, when you arrive at the airport, you get your status. So if your status is 6 months and you stay in the US for 7 months, although you have a valid visa, you have outstayed your status in the US. Okay. The US visa only allows you to arrive in the US, the airport. Yeah. Then when you get to the airport, you seek permission. That you get your status to enter by the border protection officer that you meet. Okay. So if, for example, your duration, the status given you is just 1 month, and you decide to stay there for 2 months, and then COVID-19 comes in, you cannot say because of COVID-19, you have your valid visa will be used after post COVID-19. You will be punished for overstaying your status, not the visa, for overstaying your status in the US, unless of course there's a reasonable cause. And when we talk about reasonable cause, you need to have gotten prior approval before overstaying your visa. So for example, if you are pregnant and you get to the US, and you are there for 7 months, and you are about delivering, I mean it will be unreasonable to send you back. Exactly. Okay. But the US are even careful about it. If you are aware, the US part of the Jew solid system. The Jew solid system just tells us that when you give birth in the US soil, the baby automatically becomes a US citizen. Unlike the UK, that part is the Jews sanguinis that look at the heritage of your parents and stuff. So the US do not want the case that tourists will come and then end up going out with US citizens, giving birth over there. So like I'm saying, post-COVID-19, there will be changes across countries. Okay. Ghana, I'm anticipating that those countries that we're trying to have visa-free relationship with, I'm anticipating that His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo will put a hold on that. Okay. And that even if it will be visa-free, their health history will become relevant. Okay, okay. Yes, in the decision, deciding whether or not to admit them. Yes. Yeah, yeah. I'm really grateful for your time. Unfortunately, we couldn't have you join us via Zoom. We couldn't also have Kojo Prem join us from South Africa. But certainly, this is a conversation we can look at, you know, repackaging, so to speak, so we can have it and have you send in your immigration-related questions. So we deal with it. Thank you so much for coming. Right. Wanda Kuto is Wanda Victor Kuto. Okay. Wanda Victor Kuto is a immigration lawyer helping us with those questions as far as the impact of COVID-19 on immigration is. I want to take you to Germany, where we're starting our global outlook at. I told you earlier on that some doctors there have gone on a naked protest. They're calling it bare concerns. They're protesting lack of personal protective equipment. Also, in the same country, restrictions on movement have been relaxed for over a week now. But the debate over how early social distancing measures could be eased is getting louder. For more on this, we'll get to talk to Kate Brady. Kate is a political correspondent with our partner, DW. She's joining me all the way from Berlin. Hello, Kate. Right, Kate, it's good to have you. Let's start with the doctors. I mean, this is a story that's been going around here in Ghana, and a lot of people seem very interested in how German doctors are going naked, so to speak, to protest lack of PPEs. Tell us more about that.
Well, it seems that they were actually inspired by some French dentists who actually launched a similar protest online earlier this week as well. And basically the idea of the protest is to show how vulnerable they are themselves if they don't have the correct PPE. And at the moment, German insurers, health insurers, estimate that German doctors are lacking around 60 million single-use aprons. They're lacking as well in around the same number of disposable gloves. So in recent weeks, since we've seen the COVID-19 pandemic develop across the world, manufacturers of PPE here in Germany have been increasing their production capacity, but so far they have been struggling to keep up with the demand. And so this is a pressing issue, particularly in parts of Germany that have been worst hit by the coronavirus pandemic, particularly in Bavaria, for example, and also in western parts of Germany. And so far the government has responded, saying that it now plans to centralise the procurement of PPE, and this is extremely important for medical workers, not only in hospitals but specifically as well for these general practitioners, for GPs, who we've mainly seen protesting in this naked protest online. As of next week, it's rather expected that we'll see more people going to doctors' surgeries again, as in large parts of Germany people will no longer be able to be written off sick by a doctor over the phone, which is a special measure that's been brought in during the coronavirus pandemic. So we could certainly see more people going to doctors' practices as well.
I'm going to ask you this, Kate. Over here in Ghana, well, yesterday, I think on Monday, we had a conversation with Thomas in which he talks to us about the measures or the efforts being put in place by the German government to help other countries. How do people in Germany feel about their government having to help other countries when their own doctors are going on this sort of protest?
Well, Germany, of course, is a world leader, and people respect that Germany has a role to play in that. One of the most contentious issues, though, when it comes to helping other countries is this topic of financial aid and financial support within the European Union right now. That's something that always gets a lot of attention from German voters, and that will certainly be a huge issue in the months, if not years, after the world has hopefully overcome coronavirus as well. Of course, the whole world will be dealing with this huge economic impact, and at the moment a lot of the focus from Germany, at least with its European neighbours, has been regarding health policy. It's taken in hundreds of patients from Italy, Spain and France now. But when it comes to economic help, that certainly can be a touchy subject sometimes with many German taxpayers, but many people do understand as well that Germany as a world leader has a role to play, and that's economically as well as politically.
Let's talk about the fact that you know, the debate ongoing about easing of restrictions. How is that debate panning out?
Well, we've certainly seen a shift within the last few days. In the early weeks of the COVID-19 pandemic, the politicians here in Germany and scientists were very much on the same page. We saw them appearing together, but slowly we're seeing a gap appear in the rhetoric that we're hearing from politicians and experts. Politicians are increasingly voicing their concerns about legitimate issues, particularly societal issues, and the long-term effects that isolation, that partial shutdowns and encouraging people to stay at home might have on certain groups of people, particularly the elderly, especially those who are on their own, and also what that might mean for issues like domestic violence, for example. We've seen an increase in the number of calls made to helplines here in Germany in recent weeks. And on top of that, of course, there is also concerns about education here in Germany and what that might mean for younger children's education and also their social interaction. In the long term, experts have found that this isn't healthy, that they're not able to interact with other young children. So there are a lot of issues here to take into consideration, but at the same time you also have the scientific experts, public health experts, warning people here in Germany that the best way forward is to still continue avoiding contact with other people wherever possible. And certainly we're going to be seeing in the next couple of days, as the government reviews the impact and the consequences that this relaxation of restrictions has had so far. And at the moment, there are some rather concerning numbers that keep popping up in the headlines here in Germany over the last couple of days. And that is mainly focused on the reproduction rate. And that has increased here in Germany. So the reproduction rate of the COVID-19 virus in Germany now is at 1.0 again, meaning that for every person infected, they will infect another one person. And just last week, that had been reduced to 0.7. And the number of new cases here in Germany is also no longer decreasing. So those are concerning numbers that both, of course, the politicians and scientists are looking at very carefully right now.
And that will certainly inform what next steps are then taken. Do we know at this point what government intends to do after it's tried to ease the restrictions, you know, as Thomas would put it, carefully and gradually?
Exactly. Well, what we're looking at the moment here in Germany is small phases of 2 weeks. So the relaxation of the measures that we've seen in place so far, they'll be reviewed in the coming days by the government and the state premiers with German Chancellor Angela Merkel to see exactly what the impact has been, whether that was a positive or negative impact when it comes to the number of new cases. But also looking ahead, the German government, the cabinet met earlier today. They discussed extra support for employees here in Germany. Of course, the economic fears here in Germany are still very much real. Economists are still preparing for a deep recession, despite the efforts made to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic here in Germany. And also looking ahead to the summer as well, Germany announced today that it would be extending its travel warning for travel abroad. That's now been extended till mid-June. So a lot of measures are still staying in place, and as I say, they will be reviewed on a fortnightly basis.
Yes, it looks like you're still working from home.
I am indeed. Of course, wherever possible, as I say, I'm trying to myself limit contact with other people. Of course, that is sometimes difficult given the nature of reporting, but wherever possible, we are as a team here at DW as well trying to stay at home to limit contact, but of course keep you all up to date at the same time.
Kate, thank you so much. And our heart goes out to the doctors who are, you know, putting up this protest, but hopefully the government responds to their concerns, and then we'll work that out. We'll get back to you hopefully again within this week or next week. Kate, thank you. Kate Brady is political correspondent with our partners DW, joining me all the way from Berlin. Now in New Zealand, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced this week that the country has eliminated the novel coronavirus, but warned that residents must stay vigilant. Neighbouring Australia has also experienced relatively high success in battling COVID-19. I take it to Rwanda now. Julius Bizimungu is a business journalist with the New Times in Rwanda. Julius, thank you very much for joining us. In Rwanda, we know that you have not recorded any deaths. As far as we're told, your deaths are 0. 212 cases, 95 people have recovered. Give us a general overview of the sense of how COVID-19 is impacting your country.
Well, thank you. COVID-19 is impacting the country in very many ways. But when you look at some of the sectors that stand out in terms of the impact, the grave impact, you know, these you know, hospitality, tourism among the hardest hit sectors, because you know, this is the country that relies heavily on you know, tourism and hospitality. Hotels have closed, just like many other you know, activities. Airlines have you know, flying, and that is having a very you know, very big impact on the entire economy. So just the other day, we were looking at the estimates that the country would be affected. We were at around 3.5. The economy would contract by 3.5%. From the previous projection of 8%. So that is a very, very big, you know, impact. So, you know, it's many sectors, services sectors are being hit. You know, we're looking at the month of, I think, March and April. the government and the country lost around 30 billion, missed out on 30 billion in the tourism, the hospitality sector, lost almost 30 billion revenues. So that's a very, very, very big impact. So it's generally many sectors that are being affected.
Certainly many sectors are being affected, but let's come back. Let me bring you back to the figures that we have. 212, I think, recorded. Nobody has died in China. One of the accusations against the country's authorities is that they did not really report accurate figures. To what extent do people in Rwanda, for example, believe in the figures being churned out, the official figures being churned out by government, such that there are no deaths, there are a lot of recoveries? To what extent do people believe in those figures?
I think, unlike other countries, really, Rwanda citizens really believe in the data that the government is giving them, because first of all, Rwanda has a health system, public health system, that is really strong. If you've been following, for the last 20 years, Rwanda has been investing heavily in the health sector. So we haven't seen concerns of people really raising concerns about whether the data is wrong or not, because there's already that transparency and they believe that the government has really been investing in the system. And by the way, when this pandemic started, was announced, the government right away started taking the right measures. I think when you look at around January, when it was announced in China that there was a virus, the national airline the following day to fly to Guangzhou. So those measures, including the lockdown measures that the country took, were really, really helpful in helping the country really deal with the pandemic. And so there are a lot of centers that was built to deal, with the pandemic in terms of testing, and the government got a lot of funds. Just today, beyond the IMF relief fund that the country received, we've been getting a lot of donations from countries like Germany. Today we got more than 15 tons of medical supplies from Qatar. And so, there's a lot of efforts. The government has also invested a lot in, making sure that there's testing is carried out, that tracking of the contacts of the victims is done. So I think there's a whole lot of metrics to justify that the government has really been able to deal with this. So
let me ask you this before I wrap up with you, that you talk about the lockdown measures and the immediate measures that government put in place when the COVID-19 started. I mean, some countries took their time to stop people from coming in, but Rwanda is one of the countries that quickly stopped that from happening. Give us an idea what these measures are and how they were done. I mean, how quickly, for example, did government put a ban on travels, for example? And as it stands now, what are the measures to prevent movement of people even within Rwanda?
Well, like I said, the government, first of all, stopped the airlines to come back to Rwanda, and those going out of Rwanda, including the airline, the national air carrier Rwanda, immediately stopped all their schedules when the pandemic was announced in China. So that was one of the immediate moves. And now after that, a few days later, we saw the government implementing the lockdown, which included stopping all the public gatherings, including stopping all other activities. And basically, no one was allowed to go out except essential services. You're talking about food, you're talking about medical supplies, and you're talking about transport of things like cargo, and when you talk about other measures, for instance, that were very important, everyone arriving in the country was supposed to go under a 14-day quarantine, which was very, very, very important.
Right.
So the lockdown was extended in just like a few other countries, and I think today or the next day we are going to see whether it's going to be extended again. But the idea, I think, is to lift the lockdown, even if it was to be lifted, to be in phases, because nobody knows exactly whether if we stopped allowed people to move right now to be the right move to go on. And I think putting in place, allowing companies to hand sanitizers, masks, and companies switching to production of things like mask protect, all these protective equipment.
All right, it looks like I've lost Julius there. Julius Bizimungu there joined us from Rwanda with that picture of what's happening there. Julius, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Rwanda, and we wish you all the very best. I'm going to connect right now to Nigeria. Kayla Megwa and Yakub Moro from South Africa are joining me for some update. Kayla, it's good to have you. How are you doing? Hi, Yakub. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, certainly I hear you. Well, Kayla is a regular offender. Is a regular offender in this case. So I'm going to start with you, Moro. Moro, you're joining us for the very first time. Thank you so much for your time. How is South Africa?
Thank you very much. Let me welcome you to the Republic of South Africa. I'm in Free State, which is shares a border with Lesotho. For the meantime, we are managing with the coronavirus, the lockdown as well. Just managing.
You are a Ghanaian, and I mean, how is it like for foreigners like you? Here in Ghana yesterday, the Works and Housing Minister announced that anybody who is giving a room to a foreigner must demand a test, must demand that the person shows them documents that proves that they are coronavirus negative before they allow them to live in their houses. How is it like for a foreigner in South Africa in these times?
Thank you. South Africa is totally different. We are having a different issue here. Here, no one even asks you to either conduct a test or whatsoever. And the government also has set up a team that move from house to house test people. They do it private in certain areas whereby you can join in queues, which are all free. All these are not okay. If you like, you can join and then get tested. But for the meantime, we haven't had such maybe such messages whereby landlord or tenant are having test results from before we occupy houses. One side of this is most of the houses we are staying in, we rented from an agent, and then almost all the agents are now closed due to the ongoing lockdown we are experiencing. Today is day 33 of the lockdown in South Africa.
Interesting. 33 days of lockdown. I mean, we had just, I think, a week or so here, and people were already feeling roasted. Let me come to you, Kayla, and ask you what the situation is in Nigeria.
Well, the president had an address not too long ago. President Muhammadu Buhari announced that the lockdown was going to be extended by one more week, and then by Monday next week, we will see relaxation of the lockdown in 3 states, in Lagos, Ogun, and the nation's capital, which is where I am. I said there are so many modalities and so many rules involved with this relaxation of the lockdown. So people are still trying to grapple with, what the actual details would be and how it's going to work out. So we're seeing a lot of people coming out these days. Maybe in their minds they're thinking that things are fine, but the measures are going to be more stringent from Monday, even though there's a relaxation of the lockdown. there are some things that we need to preserve in Nigeria. One of them is food security. So we're trying to see if we can get food to move from one part of the country to the other. And stick to essential sectors being outside, but it's going to be extended a little bit so more people with businesses can actually, carry out their businesses. But stringent measures on wearing face masks, on observing social distancing, these are some of the things that Nigerians are still trying to grapple with.
When you say stringent measures, and it includes wearing of face masks here in Ghana, it's becoming almost mandatory. I say almost mandatory because it's not being backed at the moment by law, but there is a decision, at the authority level that if you don't wear a face mask, for example, you shouldn't be admitted in shops, in banks to do transactions. How is the arrangements like in Nigeria?
I think it's going to be the same because after the president's speech, we started seeing that in many places, they wouldn't let you into many places if you're not wearing a face mask. I walked around some places in the city center today, and people were all wearing face masks. So I think, and then there's also a discussion about which face masks are good and which ones are efficient. Which ones are not efficient. So we're having that conversation. I think that by Monday, we're going to see it strict, and I do believe that it's going to become compulsory for people to wear face masks wherever you are. But they're still not allowed to open. Religious institutions are still not allowed to start off again. Social gatherings are also being limited. So all of these things are still in place. Like I said, a relaxation of the lockdown, but stringent measures on individual responsibility. So that's what we're going to be seeing from Monday.
Okay, I'll come to you for your final words. Let me go to South Africa again. Yakub, let me ask you, is wearing of face masks compulsory in South Africa?
It is not compulsory, but it is recommended. The President Cyril Ramaphosa came out to recommend it for all of us to wear it wherever we go. And then also on top of that, our current lockdown is going to expire tomorrow, but the President is going to address us. And with the measures being put in place, we can probably confirm that there's going to be extension of the lockdown plus a curfew. The curfew is going to start from 8 p.m. until the next morning 5 a.m. So that is what we are preparing for. But there's a possibility that there's going to be extension, just that there will be a relaxation of the lockdown rules or regulations. There are certain companies that will be allowed to, but with a little manpower. If probably like Joy FM, maybe the media department, you are 10 journalists, you only be allowed to maybe make use of 2 or 3. That is the new regulations we're going to have coming tomorrow.
Interesting. And that's day 33. Yakub is joining us from South Africa, where they are in day 33 of lockdown. Face masks are not compulsory, but they're recommended. They're expecting that the lockdown again will be extended. One of the key issues that have come up is PPEs for health workers. We just spoke to someone from Germany where some doctors are staging a naked protest. But South Africa is one of the countries that has a health system that is seriously pressured because of the rate of HIV, for example. How are the health workers, the frontliners, coping in these times?
Thank you. If you can recall, when the virus outbreak began in Wuhan, which is the epicenter in China, the South African government donated PPEs to the Chinese ambassador to South Africa, who presented it to the Chinese government in China. So when the virus landed in South Africa, there was the same gesture being brought from China and government. And then also, there are various pharmaceutical companies that are manufacturing various things, and then the local ones which maybe the seamstress are making on the street. So all have enhanced the wearing of the nose mask, etc., wherever we go. But one thing that was a little challenge was the hand sanitizer. The first of the pandemic was a shortage. The hand sanitizer became like the highest commodity. We've seen most of the shops are having hand sanitizers, and some are also safe.
Yakub, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm sure that we'll be getting to you more often from South Africa to get the situation there. We'll see whether the lockdown will be extended. Thank you so much, Yakub, for your time. Yakub Moro joined us from South Africa. I'm going to take your final words, Kayla, in Nigeria. Okay, yes, Kayla, you're there. Your final words before we go.
Yes, just to state that, it's a lot of countries are still grappling with this. We are still grappling with it here in Nigeria. We're going to watch how Monday is going to be. Yes, there's going to be a curfew from Monday, 8 p.m. till 6 a.m. and then limited movement during the day. Interstate travel will also be monitored. I will be giving you updates as they unfold. But for now, we're still trying to grapple with the realities that we're in right now and take the measures that will keep us safe as much as possible.
Kayla, thank you. It's always exciting to have you here on the show. Kayla Megwa is editor with our partners Channels TV in Nigeria. She joined us from Nigeria. And we also had Moro Yakub, who joined us from South Africa. And as you're hearing Moro say, it's possible that there will be an extension of the lockdown in South Africa from tomorrow. It's also possible that there will be a curfew from 8 to 5 p.m. Kayla is saying the same thing in Nigeria, the possibilities of a curfew in Nigeria, she says, is also expected. We'll be here to brief you, to give you all of the update from those countries. I'll take a very quick break. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty and Doppy. I'll be right back. Welcome back once again. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the coronavirus may be battering economies, as you saw in our report from Aplau, and around the world, people are feeling it. Companies are folding up, but it has led to job losses again in various fields in Ghana and abroad. But, well, some good news here. Government has begun distribution of outboard motors as part of a stimulus package to boost fishing and support fisherfolk in Ghana to remain in business. I've been speaking to the CEO of the Coastal Development Authority on what really is being done to make sure that the process of distribution is transparent, lack of politicization, and also benefits the real people who need it on the ground.
We were directed by His Excellency the President sometime in September 2019 to ensure that all fishers along the coastal zone or along the coastal line are furnished with outboard motors at an extraordinarily discounted prices.
Okay, so it's not free?
No, it's never been free.
Okay.
But this type of discount is first of its kind. It's close to half of the price.
Okay, so how much is it? Does an outboard motor cost typically?
Well, so currently we have 2 horsepowers, 2 different horsepowers that they are looking at. So 2 categories. So we have the 40 horsepower, which is currently 18,370 Ghana cedis. And then the 15 horsepower, which is about 16,000 Ghana cedis.
Oh.
Yes.
So the subsidized price that you're selling to farmers, fishers now will cost how much?
It will now cost, for the 40 horsepower, it will now cost as directed by the President and then the board of the Coastal Development Authority. And in tandem with the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture's arrangement, one 40 horsepower now has to cost 10,100 Ghana cedis.
Okay, that's the big one, right?
That is the 40 horsepower.
So the smaller one will be, which is 16,000.
Yes, we'll go about half of the price, which we are looking at between 5,000 to 6,000 Ghana cedis.
Okay.
Yes.
And let's talk about the numbers. How many outboard motors are you looking to give out to?
So His Excellency directed that we should have, first of all, a sensitization tour, so that we could take the necessary assessment from the fishers. So we've done 3 of that. From Axim to Kita, we met with all the fisher folks who gave us a certain idea of how many outboard motors they were looking for. In fact, they were looking for close to 5,500.
Okay.
But what budget we had available was to go procure 5,000. As we speak, we have currently received 1,300 outboard motors, of which 1,200 is the 40 horsepower, and then only 100 is the 15 horsepower. And Gifty, let me just state this. You know, the production of the outboard motors are based on request, and we are getting it from CFAO, which is being brought in by BIS GPS Group, which is one of our suppliers, and then Era 53 Limited, which is getting some from Japan and Japan Motors. So what the arrangement is that if you do not request,
They cannot make it
no,
for you.
so it's not something which is out there in the market.
Okay.
And now the only problem is that we would have had the second consignment in April, this end of April. Okay. But I'm sure you know what is happening. Yes, so that there's
some sort of special arrangement to make sure that you have outbound motors that you'll be given to fisher folk on a very subsidized level.
This is extremely subsidized.
Okay.
And I'm sure they know. The fishers themselves can attest it.
You indicated that you went round on a sensitization tour.
Yes, we did.
How do they feel about this, sincerely?
Oh, well, it may be a very good way to get to some of the videos that during the tours we had with them. Extremely excited, and I can get to some of the videos for you to play back. They have never, as fishers, never had such an intervention. That the president would say that we are taking close to half of the price for an outboard motor, and we would give it to you to pay within a certain period of time, then it is delivered onto you.
How long do they have to finish paying? And they're paying this subsidized price within a period of time.
Yes.
How long do they have to finish paying?
It shouldn't be more than 2 months. Because already,
it shouldn't be, or there is a fixed period?
Well, that's what it is. So the fixed period is that it's on or before 2 months.
Okay, on or before 2 months.
Yes.
They should pay in installments?
Yes, and this is because we had a prior engagement with them, so they knew about this, and I'm sure they had been planning on making payments. Okay. Yes.
In terms of beneficiaries, who are we looking at? Does it include all fisher folk, or are there fisher folk that you've selected from specific areas?
Okay, so like I indicated, this is funded from the IPEP. The IPEP is the infrastructure for poverty eradication program.
Okay.
So the key target groups are fishers who are to some extent poor.
Okay.
Or largely poor.
Okay.
And that was how come we went on the sensitization tour. We took their names and details, and then we verified or validated all of these people.
I'm interested to find out what the validation process entails. How did you verify that these people that have written their names are actually poor fisher folk?
So we have committees. We have local committees that's made up of the Landing Beach Committee. The Landing Beach Committee has 2 representatives.
Okay.
We have the MMDC within the jurisdiction we are operating within. We have the regional minister. We also have the CODA, Coastal Development Authority representative.
Okay.
And we also have the MOFAD representative. And then NAFTA. MOFAD is Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development representative. And then NAFTA is the owners of canoes, or the Canoe Association. So they know that Gifty works here. Gifty is a fisher folk here.
Okay.
So Gifty really demands or requires an outboard motor to operate. So they first, the 2 Landing Beach Committee members who validate this name, that Gifty confirmed she needs an outboard motor. In fact, she needs a particular one, 15 horsepower and not 40 horsepower.
I see.
Then it migrates from the Landing Beach Committee and goes through the District Chief Executive's office, because we also want to ensure that someone who is operating from Choco will not go to Apam to also go and apply, because because of the very reduced prices, people can play all manner of moves. Yes.
Okay.
Not just scramble, because they can scramble and keep them, but they'll scramble and resell them and make some profit. Because if it is 18,370 and I'm giving you to 10,100, you can imagine the amount of profits you're going to make on that. So this is what we have been trying to do. We've put in a lot of validation processes. So before you even pick it, you would have to go through all these processes, which we also as Coastal Development Authority and the Ministry of Fisheries have their details. So you cannot say that you operate from Shama when you are not a fisher folk from Shama. And jump to Tema when you are actually in Tema, and say that I also operate from Shama. So all these processes are there with the Landing Beach Committee members, that is the local committee, and then we have the metropolitan or municipal or district chief executive who is also a representative or a member of this committee.
Okay.
And then we also have the regional minister or his representative or her representative. Then we also have the Coastal Development Authority's representative. We also have the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development representative, or the minister's representative. And then The final one is the Association of Canoe Owners that they call NAFTA.
I see. That looks like a long process. But, you know, this is not the first time that we've seen things going out to farmers or fishermen that's going at a subsidized price. But there are also very outstanding issues of corruption at this level. I mean, talk about pre-mixed fuel, and they'll tell you the level of corruption, the level of politicization. Let's start with the level of corruption. With this list that you've indicated, how does it help to reduce the level of corruption?
So I literally gave an example this morning that we are going to involve some security personnel that you and I will not know.
Okay.
And this is to check, first of all, the people, the very corrupt ones and selfish ones who will want to go out there and think that, listen.
So if you're a fisherman, you live in the coastal communities, look out for those outboard motors. They'll be coming your way. We'll follow up to find out how the distribution goes. Right now, we know what the coronavirus pandemic is doing. It is overwhelming health systems around the world, requiring a rethinking of investment into health infrastructure. This country has started its own. Today, we're privileged to speak to former Health Minister, Professor George Sipayanki, on what, from his perspective, can be done as far as health infrastructure is concerned. Prof. Sipayanki, it's very good to see you. It's been a very, very long time since we saw you in the media.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, it's been a long time. And let me just make some correction. I'm Dr. Yankee.
Dr. Yankee.
And not Professor Yankee.
Very well. Very well. It's probably a prophecy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So tell us, how have you been doing, especially in this pandemic?
Well, we've been trying to keep ourselves busy by staying in your house, reading, writing, and exercising. Also eating and sleeping.
So let's look at how Ghana has. I mean, you've been a health minister before. Certainly, things might have been different back then when you were health minister than it is at the moment. But you will still have an insight as far as health matters are concerned. First, give me your assessment of how Ghana has handled this situation from our part of the world.
Well, I think the government, and especially the Ministry of Health, has not done badly. They've done quite well. I think they've been able to manage the pandemic quite well. But I think they could have done, some of the issues could have done much better. For instance, I think it took a bit of time for us to take the measures that had been taken. And I'm referring especially to the closure of our borders and then the closure of the airport. These ought to have been closed about 2 weeks earlier. 2 weeks earlier before they were closed. And also, I think that the lockdown ought to have been national. Ought to have been national because, you see, as the president himself did admit, when Accra, Greater Accra and Kumasi and environs were locked down, there were buses and trucks transporting people from these lockdown areas to the other regions, exporting the virus to those places. So that actually was a big loophole that even made the virus get to the regions. So these are the issues that I think we could have done better. You know, when I used to be a health minister, I remember when we had the N1H1, the actions we took were very proactive and prompt. When the virus started in the US, spreading to other parts of America, of Europe, before even the World Health Organization declared it to be a pandemic, I think in sometime in July, August, we had taken certain steps, very proactive steps. The Ministry of Health, together with the Ministry of Agri, met and took a decision to stop the importation of pork products to the country. The Ministry of Agri was supposed to be working with all the big piggery farms to ensure that hygiene and the state of the management of those farms were done in such a way that they will not be affected by the virus. And, you know, I think our efforts, though a bit draconian and a bit prompt, some even said that it was too much. We never witnessed any death in Ghana. I don't recall it was any fatality. As a matter of fact, it came to a point when we had the complaints to His Excellency the President at most, the ex-president said at most. And those ladies dealing there, is it the trophy or something, those fatty pork products were complaining that the business was being destroyed. So the president called me and asked me, is there anything to do about it? I did convince him that we need to keep the ban on the position for a while before we lifted it. So that was able to stem the import of the virus into the country. And I think that this government has done well, ought to have been a little more prompt, a little more proactive.
Okay. Well, that is in the past, so to speak. But we always look at the past to guide our present, and so we can move into the future. Looking into the future, what are your expectations of what ought to be done generally?
You know, it is good that through the advice of the president, some local initiatives have been undertaken to provide the necessary logistical means that the Ministry of Health and health workers will need to deal with such a dynamic. I think it's important for us now to be able to implement and improve upon the flu surveillance systems and practices. We don't have to wait for a virus to come to Ghana before we work to deal with it. As a matter of fact, flu or virus will always come. Give us another 5 years, some different virus will come to this country. So we don't have to wait till it comes before we start to work to deal with it. Now, we need to strengthen our health facilities, provide basic health facilities in all the regions and the districts. And that's why it was quite heartwarming when the president said that he's going to build 88 district hospitals to ensure that every district has got a hospital, also build about 8 regional hospitals. Very good idea.
These are supposed to be, Doc, these are supposed to be district hospitals.
Yes.
Right. So you're telling me that you hope. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I'm saying that I hope this will be feasible, because you see, you need the facilities to be able to attend to the sick, be it a victim of COVID-19 or whatever. But I said I hope because I don't see how realistic within 1 year any government, anybody, anywhere can build 88 district hospitals and 8 regional hospitals. It's not possible. But I think the president, maybe he means very well, but I don't believe that what he said could be done. But that aside, I'm very happy that now Ghana is doing things that it was not doing before. One, now the pharmaceutical companies, on advice of the president and also with the advent
let me interrupt you briefly, Doc. You indicate that building of the 88 district hospital, from your perspective, is not feasible. You think it is not
within
possible.
1 year? Yeah, no.
Within 1 year.
No.
Even when government has said that because our economy is at the moment, the economy was robust before coronavirus, we're able to afford this intervention. You don't believe the word of government?
So, you know, if I have to go by the promises of this government, if the promises are anything to go by, I don't have any faith that within 1 year, 1 year to build 88 district hospitals, 100 beds. You know, first you've got to procure the financing. To get the financing takes a process. It has to go and discuss the loan facility from whichever lender. We have to negotiate the loan facility, agree on the terms and conditions, go to Parliament, go to Cabinet for approval, go to Parliament for approval. Before you have to meet the pre-disbursement conditions for the effectiveness of the loan. And that will take you about 9 months to about 1 year before you are then able to start even work. If that also needs some design of the facilities, the procurement of the items that you require to really get a functional health facility. So that's what I'm saying. While the president may mean very well in the midst of the pandemic, I'm not confident that that can be, that is doable.
And speaking of which, are you then part of those who say government should focus on the abandoned projects left behind by the previous administration? rather than think of starting new health infrastructure altogether?
You know, there are facilities that are close to completion, scattered around the regions. There are some facilities even in Accra and other places. They've gotten to a point whereby their mode of completion, the cost of their completion, will not be as much as putting up a new hospital all over again. So I'm saying, let's finish what we have already and put them to use. And then, you know, as we begin to begin the process of procuring the funds, which takes so long, we can use available funds that you have now to finish them. During the completion of these facilities, you will be embarking, or you have embarked on the process to secure the loans to finance the new ones. Okay. So by the time the loans are available, you have already put to work some of the facilities which are yet to be completed, and then the additional 88 will then come to complement and make a very great health, structure for this country. So yes, government can put up some new buildings, some new facilities for a new hospital, but they must finish what is there, because what I've been cited is government's money. Taxpayers' money is what have been used to commence this project. So we will need to finish this project, because you see, let's assume that most of the facilities were procured, were financed by loans. Whether you like it or not, you and I are going to pay the loan when the loan matures.
Okay.
So I think government should finish the one that I had completed, and then start some new one. Yes, I agree.
Okay, I'm sure that subsequently we'll be able to talk to you, but just two quick things I want to use to address before we call it a wrap. Today I listened to one of a member of your party, former Minister for Health, say that there is politicization, assessing essentially how President Akufo-Addo has addressed this issue. He says that there's politicization creeping in there. Some people even say that he's using the platform to sort of launch a certain level of political campaign. Is that what you see from your perspective, and what could possibly be wrong with that if that's what it takes to rally the people behind you?
Yeah, I'm not happy about the fact that we spend money to build an ultra-modern facility like the Bank of Ghana Hospital, which has laid idle for about 3 years. And now, because the situation is desperate, we are now beginning to use it for COVID-19 patients. I am not happy about the fact that we spend money to build the Lagos University of Ghana Medical Center, and be there lying idle for about 2-3 years, and we are now being forced to use it because of COVID-19. So what I'm saying is that whether President Kufuor, whether President Mills, whether President Mahama has built a facility, the facilities that have been built have not been built with their own money. They've been built with monies from which you and I contribute. So we should make use of them and add to these facilities so they can serve the needs of the people. But before I go, very important issue that I think I need to mention now is this. The COVID-19 is going to leave behind battered economies for most countries. It's going to create winners and losers at the end of it. And I think Ghana, by what we started doing, can become winners after COVID-19 for the future, because now before you were importing sanitizers. Now you are producing our own sanitizers. Formerly, you were importing face masks and PPEs, and now we are producing all of these. So I'm saying that the momentum of producing these items domestically for consumption by our health facilities should be continued, and government should work together with the Export Development, the Exim Bank of Ghana, and these companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the textile company, for us to develop capacity to continue to build these things and produce these things, not only for the use of Ghana, but even to export to our neighbors. Okay. And one thing that the Ministry of Health can do is to place big orders with these textile companies producing the face masks and be able to get enough to produce and supply every Ghanaian. You are being told that you should wear masks compulsorily. In Boku, in some areas, they can't even find it to buy. So government, to give a boost to the textile companies that are producing these face masks, should place enough for at least 1 or 2 million face masks and give to people who cannot afford it. Okay. And that will be a boost, not only for the companies producing them, but also a big contribution to the fight against the virus.
Dr. Sipayanki, I've run out of time, but we'll certainly make time and have another conversation. I mean, you have also been a finance minister before. We can also talk about the financial implications that this virus leaves for us. Certainly, we'll come back to you. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I've been talking to former Minister for Health, Dr. Sipayanki there, whose views are that government should buy these masks that are being produced here in Ghana and share them for free for people. It will boost the economy, part of it, and it will strengthen the hands of these local companies that are into this production there. It's been a pleasure having you as always. There is more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up here. We're unable to bring you Frontline today, but we certainly will. I will not forgotten our frontline health workers at all. You are always on our mind. Congratulations to you and God bless you for all the good work that you keep doing. My name is Gifty Ando Apia.